All right, welcome to MMA Al Dente. I'm here to talk to you about UFC 271, which was a pretty good fucking event. Not my favorite pay-per-view by any means, but I had fun. UFC 271 was headlined by Israel versus Whittaker 2, and the fight was a unanimous decision for Adesanya, but in my opinion, it was a razor-thin fight. Razor thin. I had Adesanya winning the fight 3-2, but as soon as the fight was over, I did some math and said split decision incoming. Of course, I was fucking wrong about that, but still, the fight, any fight card, any scorecard could have ranged from 49-46 Adesanya to 48-47 for Whittaker. I want to say Adesanya absolutely won round one and lost round five. I guess I can't say absolutely because some asshole scored it for him. I forgot which one, but that's how I saw the fight. And I also thought Whittaker won round four, and two was a toss up. I thought Israel won rounds one and three, and it all came down to round two, in my opinion. Of course, I was wrong about all that if you look at the judges' scorecards, but that's how I saw the fight. Israel had the knockdown in round one, which was a weird knockdown, but it was a knockdown, and he, for the entirety of the fight, I thought was the better striker. But Robert Whittaker kept himself in that fight, had I can't say a lot of success with takedowns, certainly not with top control, but his takedowns hit, which was maybe not effective directly, but they threw Adesanya off, knowing this guy's coming to wrestle, which he knew to begin with anyway. But he got up every time, Adesanya. He's got really good hips and good wrestling, defensive wrestling, really tough guy to wrangle. And I thought the decision should have went to him, Adesanya, but you can't call it a robbery either way. And Whittaker certainly can't call it a robbery. But Whittaker, I thought, redeemed himself, especially being hurt in round one or dropped. He was a game fighter in this fight. And I did think, I thought maybe he could have done more, but I was sitting on my bed over there watching the fights, and I had like Cheetos and shit all over me. So, no Cheetos. But my point is easier said than done. Nevertheless, I thought it was a redemptive performance, if that's a word, for Rob Whittaker, and a fair decision. Can't say it was Israel's best moment, but, overall, it's one of his better wins. Of course, he had a knockout win over the same guy, but maybe that was a different guy, as Whittaker said. He had a lot on his mind and whatever. He redeemed himself here, and Israel keeps his title. I thought he didn't look bad, and he was faced with more adversity from what I consider the number two guy in the world. Like, absolutely. And he handled it well, and I thought got the better of the fight. As for Tuivasa versus Derek Lewis, sucks. It was awesome because I like Tuivasa, who doesn't, but it sucks because I like Derek Lewis, and I wanted him to win in Houston. I was really impressed with Derek Lewis. I know what he's capable of already, but going for the takedown and getting those big, heavy shots against the cage off the takedown, I thought that, man, I really wanted him to win like that. Once he took him down, I was like, I want to see Lewis get the full mount and pound him out, which I kind of alluded to in the pre-fight video. Derek Lewis is a capable fighter on the ground. I don't want to make him sound like he's, Marcelo Garcia, but once he gets in the full mount, he's as good as anybody in the full mount, and his power stays with him. So I wanted to see that, but instead Tuivasa hung in there. He ate some big shots, and he was hurt, but I think Derek maybe poured a little too much into it. I don't know. Tuivasa hung in there. Round two. Still, I think Derek Lewis is winning this fight, but Ty caught him with some big elbows and then a big elbow in the end. He caught him with elbows and punches and finished him off with a mean elbow, short right elbow, and Derek Lewis was done. Sucks for Ty that was in Houston, although they were still noisy or whatever, but that's their guy. Nobody wants to see their guy lose. But man, Tai Tuivasa, he's still gonna break through anywhere. You could put him anywhere, any country, hostile, whatever. When he knocks somebody out, the hometown guy or not, after coming out to Cyndi Lauper or the Spice Girls or whatever, and then he drinks the beer like Stone Cold Steve Austin, but only out of a shoe, he's gonna win people over. I won't get tired of seeing it because the fight is always real. The fight's always gonna be different. And it's awesome that we have like a character like this, especially one that beat Derek Lewis. Because Derek Lewis was kind of that, elite heavyweight. Despite what people say, Derek Lewis is an elite fighter. And he was the fun guy, the guy with the personality and all that. So, cool win for Ty. Shitty loss for Derek, but not that bad. Much better loss despite the opponent than his loss to Cyril Gane last year in the same place. So really cool, fun moment, and fun fight. Really fun fight. Next up would be Jared Cannonier knocking out Derek Brunson. I'm a Brunson guy, as I said, and I was worried, as I said. Brunson made a fight of it. He looked really good in the first round, and he looked really bad in the second round. He's a sloppier fighter than most. He's, I don't know if I've ever seen him unconscious. That's another thing I was pointing to in the I think Jacare knocked him unconscious in the first fight, their first fight. But other than that, his TKO losses are him stumbling around and getting finished. And of course, I'm sure he's not on a full gas tank at that point, any point. But this was just Jared Cannonier taking over the fight. Jared Cannonier's always got that power with him, and he's got otherworldly power. And Derek Brunson just couldn't keep up. I think he was fighting with a lot of fear, which comes with fighting with a shitty gas tank, perhaps. I don't know. I know Brunson's got a good gas tank historically, but he just he seemed out of it. I don't know. Anyway, there is no other guy for Israel Adesanya right now than Jared Cannonier. Nobody's going to give Khamzat Chimaev an 85 title shot. And Jared Cannonier, I expect him to lose to Israel Adesanya, but that guy can definitely win. I think he could kick Israel's leg in half, and I do think he can punch anybody unconscious. So, really looking forward to that fight. And Jared Cannonier is very tough. He's a guy who's he's very tough. He used to eat heavyweight shots, and now here he is at middleweight, and he's got a hell of a chin on. So, really looking forward to that one. Who the fuck else? Hernandez, Moicano versus Hernandez, as it'll now be remembered. Moicano is, he's a rear naked choke machine. I worry about his chin. I did bet on Hernandez coming into this fight, and I picked him. But that's just, I knew there was a chance I'd be wrong there. And, man, Hernandez, he's, what do you call it, a front runner? He's like a front runner. Hernandez, the majority of his losses have and will take place in round 2, and he'll probably do well in round 1 in all those fights. He's just he's a front runner. I don't think he's got the greatest gas tank. He's definitely not as durable as he needs to be, and his game's got a few holes that need to be patched up, obviously. This is his first submission loss, I think. I hope. And it's just another hole that was revealed. But a lot of those same holes were shown tonight, too, that have been shown earlier in his career. He's a front runner. He's not the most comfortable striker. His game is built on knocking people out with his power and his athleticism, and also outstriking them with his athleticism. This was a guy fighting at a lower weight class, 145, that has fought at 145. That's got a bigger frame. You know, Hernandez is a shorter, compact athlete, and while that's good for, wins like his win over Dariush, I think the more consistent truth that comes from him as a fighter and his body and all everything, advantages and disadvantages, is what we've seen 3 times now. Drew Dober, Donald Cerrone, Renato Moicano. He's a tough guy, but not tough enough. He's not comfortable enough striking. And he's a front runner who needs better cardio, a lot better cardio. You need to be able to get your ass kicked in the 7th minute of the fight. And he's shown an ability. He hasn't shown an ability to do that against top competition in the UFC. I don't think he's on his way out. He's coming off a win, before this one. And he's gone win, loss, and fought really tough competition compared to anybody else with the amount of UFC fights he has. So I'd like to see Hernandez stick around. I'm rooting for him. But I don't think he's got the highest ceiling. I'm not sure he'll ever headline a UFC event, let alone a pay-per-view. And Moicano, he's a rear naked choke machine. That guy's a really good striker too, really competent. Like I said, I worry about his chin, but man, he took some shots last night and he did all right. He's a very good fighter at any weight class, either weight class. And that's the guy, think about how good Calvin Kattar looks now and go watch his fight with Calvin Kattar. He's a capable fighter. And I'm glad he's going to be sticking around. I think every one of his finishes is in MMA is with a rear naked choke. So that's his spot, and fucking awesome to see him get another one, especially over a good fighter like Hernandez. Bobby Green versus Nasrat Hapgrass. This was the Bobby Green show, and this was like a boxing match, a few takedowns and whatever. Bobby Green hit a nice trip at the end, but Bobby Green is a slick boxer who is only looking better in the UFC. I'm a big Jim Miller fan. He's my favorite fighter, and I'm glad Jim Miller didn't fight Bobby Green, whatever it was, 6 months ago at this point. But they were scheduled to fight, I think, before Jim Miller's last fight. And Bobby Green had to pull out with some illness or whatever. It was like day of. Really sucked. But in retrospect, I'm glad that didn't happen because Bobby Green is an animal. He's still an animal. Guys like him that have been around for a decade plus fighting at the UFC level. They're not always going to stick around. Most of them aren't for a decade plus and look as good as they have looked in whatever. I don't know how old he is, but this is, he's been in the UFC for quite some time. It's been a while since he knocked out James Krause. And, man, it's cool to see him have this, kind of like a resurgence because he had some bumps in the road. Of course, a lot of them were split decision bumps. And even his fight with Fiziev, he's on the rise. He'll be he should have been headlining next week's event, but now he's going to be the co-main event of UFC 272 against Dos Anjos in a 5-round fight, by the way. So he's on the rise. No, he's been on the rise. He's already a top contender. And Bobby Green, man, I wish Bobby Green would have had him in a 5-round fight. That's all I'm saying. All right. Nasrat too. Nasrat's a really good fighter. I picked him to win this fight. I thought, he would have looked better on the feet, and I thought he would have won a boxing match, which is, I got pretty much what I expected, but the exact opposite. I thought Bobby Green was going to be on the losing end, doing a lot of showboating, getting hit with quick hands, and I had that one completely backwards. Nasrat's still a good fighter, though, but he's not going to crack that top 10. He's not an elite fighter. Not yet. He's still young, though. We'll see what happens. Who the fuck else? Arlovski. Andrei Arlovski is a very good fighter in the UFC's heavyweight division. He's the prospect killer. And at some point, like 3 years ago, I was like, he's the prospect maker or the contender maker. He's gone through so many different phases in his career. I've been watching him since essentially the beginning. Yeah, I've been watching the sport since 2001. He'd been in the UFC for a year and a half or so at that point, and he had a bad chin 20 years ago. A bad chin. I was like, oh, every time you see this guy lose, it's going to be via knockout. I remember being like flabbergasted when he lost a 3-round decision to Bigfoot Silva. I remember saying, how the fuck does that happen? His chin held up, but I don't want to say his chin's better than we thought, but he's a guy, kind of like Econo Reem when a Uber Reem turned into Econo Reem, Overeem, and he started fighting more cautiously. He was almost a better fighter over him. I can't say he was a better fighter, but he was a more dangerous test for a lot of people. A guy that you can't knock out because he's not going to get in close and let you crack him. And that's Arlovski. He knows, I think he suspects he's got a weak chin, although, he's always saying, fuck you, you say that, you don't know, watch my fights, whatever. He's a really, really capable striker, and he's really quick. At 40, whatever years old, he's still one of the quickest guys in the division. He moves great, and heavyweights, no matter what, how young they are, whatever, generally speaking, they're 250 pounds. And some of them don't carry that weight well, They use that extra weight as an asset, and then they come up against a guy like Arlovski, and it's no longer an asset. And that's what Arlovski's shown time and again. He's got some big wins in these last few years, and well, maybe not the biggest wins, but he's taken out a lot of youngsters, and it was just awesome to see him do it again last night. Now that's 3 fights in a row. It's really cool to see Arlovski. I think he's won 5 out of his last 6 or something like that. And the guy fights very frequently. Compared to any other UFC fighter, it feels like I see Arlovski more than most. So awesome win for Andre. Jared Vanderaa, he had a spirited performance. He hung in there and was still fighting till the end. But man, who the fuck scored that fight for him? That was that guy, fucking Rock something, whatever. Sam Rockwell. I don't know. I looked it up last night, and Anik announced it. But he was the same asshole that scored the fight for Roxy, which is the next fight I'm getting to here. Roxanne Modafferi had an awesome retirement fight because she hung in there, especially in round 3, and she was going for it. And, it was a spirited performance. But this was the Casey ONeil show. Casey won that fight. And I don't know who scored that fight for Roxanne. I think it was that same guy, whatever his name was, but he scored the second round for her off of a takedown in the last 15 seconds. A round in which she was busted up all round. And anybody could be busted up. She was outstruck thoroughly. And that's just a bad decision. I mean, it was a good decision, but that's a bad scorecard. That's criminal shit. When you think about the stakes, and not just the immediate financial stakes of who's going to win this fight, but who's going to move on to grand opportunities. Casey ONeil could be headlining a UFC event, a fight card in her next fight, for all I know. And if she lost this fight, that wouldn't be the case. I don't think she's going to be a headliner of a fight night, but I think she's maybe 1 fight away from headlining a fight night. Let's put it this way. When somebody gets COVID, she'll be headlining the next fight night. As long as she's got a good matchup. But, my point is, I can't call it criminal, but it's damn near criminal. Just dog shit judging. You have a duty, and to score round 2 of that fight for Roxanne Modafferi, no matter how much the crowd wants her to win and you want her to win, and the happy moment, the happy warrior, and whatever the fuck, that is an abdication of your duty. You're an incompetent fuck, and you shouldn't be allowed to score anything. Now, Casey ONeil got another big win. This is her first win that isn't a finish in the UFC, although she came close. Maybe not, but she didn't really come close, but she didn't have to. She was fighting a great fight. But still, the moment was Roxanne Modafferi's. She's been around forever in MMA, WMMA. Hasn't been around the UFC forever, but still, She had quite a career in the UFC. 2 stints on the Ultimate Fighter. She had a great second run here. Despite losing the majority of her fights, she beat a lot of great fighters, current contenders, future contenders. Uh, Macy Barber, Antonina Shevchenko, former contender, I guess, or whatever, maybe not even, but Macy Barber and Angela Lee twice, but once in the UFC. She had a great career, and I'm glad she got some fond memories from this last one because the crowd was very supportive of her, gave her a hell of a moment at the end. So did the UFC, to be fair, because that was on valuable ESPN time. And it's cool for them to show. You want to show moments like this. That's how you want to showcase your sport and your organization with moments like Roxanne Modafferi retiring. And people hear her speak and go, "Huh, she's a cage fighter." Yeah, I still think like that, where I gotta impress the masses. That's how MMA has to think. But yeah, it's cool. She's the anti-fighter with her personality and whatever, and that itself is shocking enough that this girl walks around speaking and thinking like this. She's silly and whatever. But it was a cool moment to see her retire with a lot of love and affection. Now, who the fuck else? Who in the blue fuck fought? Douglas Silva de Andrade. This couldn't have been the next fight, but it's the one I want to talk about. Douglas Silva de Andrade taking out Sergey Morozov. My God, that was awesome. He got cracked early. He was hurt. He was nearly dead. And I thought he was going to die. I mean, get finished. But he came back and, man, he just poured it on. At the end, I think Morozov was starting to fatigue. But Douglas Silva de Andrade looked excellent there. He really turned it on in round two. He ended up taking the back and whatever, but he beat Sergey up. He showed for like the last minute of that fight that was on the feet that Sergey made the wrong call. You could see Sergey was running around, running away from him, I think, even at one point. And Douglas was surging. He looked like a better fighter, certainly, than he did in round one. He looked like he had more energy and he was gaining, and Morozov was falling. He was falling, flailing, and fucking praying. And he got knocked around and then choked dead. This was just, and like they're both veterans of the game, but Douglas Silva de Andrade is the UFC veteran. I always root for the UFC veteran, especially a guy with a great record like that who's not considered a great fighter. But how can you have a record like that and not be a great fighter? This was, I think, the finest win of his career. They both get bonuses, but of course it's Douglas's moment, and it was awesome to see. Probably my favorite fight of the night last night. Who the fuck else? And Morozov, like I said, I was worried about his durability. There's a lot of ways for him to win, so I'm not going to bet on it, I think I said in the pre-fight. And at least I felt kind of vindicated there. Just there's something about the guy I don't trust. I don't trust his durability, and I certainly don't anymore. So great win for Douglas. Who else we got here? Should have written this shit down. Oh, okay. Jacob Malkoun versus AJ Dobson. This was thorough, well, not thorough domination, but after round two, it was thorough domination. And AJ Dobson looked really good in round one. That guy is a guy who's a big physical problem for a lot of fighters in that weight class. I thought he would have been one for Malkoun. I picked him to win via first round knockout. But Malkoun is one of those guys like Yoon Dong Sik, where you can't let that first impression stick with you, because that might have been the fluke, him getting knocked out in 2 seconds by Phil Hawes, because he dealt with a similar although smaller fighter in Abdul Razak Al Hassan, and now he dealt with a bigger but similar, a black guy, I guess. I don't know. The similarities in there, to be fair, but still, well, a guy that I think will be a front runner and a big first round finisher. And he took everything he had and he kept going and wore him down. Really awesome to see. Jacob Malkoon, I underestimated you, and it won't happen again until the next one when, I'm like, I don't know, I think he's going to lose in like 18 seconds. Yeah. All right. Who the fuck else we got? William Knight got the shit kicked out of him. He got thoroughly dominated. That was great to see. After missing weight and making excuses and bitching at the fans, Maxim Grishin dominated him. That was awesome. It was he had moments, William Knight, certainly with takedowns and getting in close, a slam and whatever, but he didn't have the cardio to win that fight. I don't even mean at the end. I mean in the beginning. He didn't have the cardio. He didn't trust himself to throw anything, which that's like, it seems like it's a typical William Knight performance, but how do you let a whole round go by without throwing anything? That's somebody who threw away a third of the fight. I'm talking about round one. So I don't trust William Knight. I trust his cardio even less than he does. And it was cool to see him lose after missing weight, despite taking the fight on very short notice. It was cool to see him 2 weeks notice. I feel like he sandbagged Maxim Grishin, and I'm glad Grishin won. And who the fuck else? This is the kind of show you could expect from me. I'm trying to think about who fought. I could have just written it down. I have it written down. Give me 1 second. Jerk off. Okay, Ronnie Lawrence versus Manny Martinez. I had Manny Martinez winning this fight. I felt like an asshole till round 3. Manny Martinez really brought it in round 3. He didn't stop fighting, and then that power showed up. He cracked Ronnie Lawrence after being out-wrestled for 2 rounds and outstruck. He was knocked down, knocked around, taken down, but he hung in there. Had his huge moment in round 3, and that was, disappointing that he didn't get the finish because I'd bet on him and whatever. But still, vindicating third round there, redeeming third round. Both guys got over, so to speak. That's the pro wrestling language. And Ronnie Lawrence keeps his status as a top prospect. Manny Martinez keeps his status as a guy who belongs in the UFC. And a very dangerous, well, he's a finisher, but a very dangerous striker. Olberg versus Charant. Look, Olberg, he's a very skilled striker, but I don't trust this guy as a fighter. Like I was talking about with William Knight, Olberg needed to learn lessons after his last loss, his first loss to Kennedy and Zetchiku, but you can't overcompensate, and that's what happened here. He needed to slow things down, pump the brakes, preserve his cardio, and he did that too much, way too much. Not that you have to make things exciting for the fans, but you have to try to finish every fight, and he didn't really do that. He didn't have too many moments here. Charant had a few nice big right hands and whatever, but those were just opportunities that he forced himself to create. This was Olberg dominating that fight, and it was a shit fest. I mean, a fucking shit fest. And I look forward to seeing him again, I suppose. Charant, I don't think we will see him again, but I hope he fights a bigger specimen where he can't just dominate the fight with jabs and feints and whatever. Dog shit fight. And one more, 2 more. Kyler Phillips taking out Marcelo Rojo. I forgot about that, or Rojo. I still don't know. I watched the fight last night. I still don't know how they pronounce his name, but this was a great win for Kyler Phillips. He's gotta see. I forgot which round it even was, but I was big on the third round weakness. I think it was round 3 when he caught that armbar. It was. And Marcelo Rojo's got that third round weakness. Three of his now, I think four of his last losses were round three, which is astonishing. That makes you Andrew Sanchez. And like I said in the pre-fight, always bet against a guy like that losing in round three. I'm a fucking genius. I didn't bet any money, so I'm not that smart. But still, if you had listened to me and parlayed all your winnings from Juliana Pena beating Amanda Nunes, which I called, check out the video, and then you hit this, you'd be a millionaire. Huh? And then maybe you can get me out of this fucking studio apartment. All right. Jeremiah Wells versus Mike Mafetha. Oh, first let me touch on Kyler Phillips. Kyler Phillips looked really good throughout the whole fight. His cardio looked good, getting that late finish. And that submission was beautiful. I love that submission. You know, he got it from like the full mount and whatever, but that's a triangle armbar. One of my favorites is Fabricio Verdum taking out Roman Zentsov at Pride 29, I think. I don't know. But this looked exactly the same as that. I watched it last night and I went, oh, it's the same exact submission from the same exact camera angle. But awesome, awesome finish. I love seeing an old school submission like that. I hate having to talk like that on an old school submission because you don't see them nowadays. But really cool for a UFC fighter to see that in the UFC. And Kyler Phillips remains one of the top prospects. You can look at his loss to Raulian Paiva, but that was a razor-thin fight. And if he just learns his lessons without overcompensating, you know, which it looks like he has, he's going to be a very good fighter. All right, Jeremiah Wells versus Mike Mafetha. Blood Diamond. Blood Diamond's not ready for the UFC. I think Jeremiah Wells is a lot better than any other fighter with one UFC fight. Just some brand newcomer. Jeremiah Wells is going to have a lot of success in the UFC. Already has. The Blood Diamond win came and went, but the win over Warley Alves will stay forever. That was a huge victory. But Blood Diamond just wasn't ready for UFC grappling. Wasn't ready for UFC wrestling and UFC grappling. And he did well defending the choke and whatever, but not too well. And in the end, I don't know what kind of squeeze he had and whatever. Jeremiah was saying he had it in. It wasn't like a crank, I think, but of course he had it in. He choked him out. Blood Diamond was choked out. And it was just grappling dominance, grappling prowess, and fucking a lot of strength. So really sucks for Mike Mafetha, Blood Diamond, because he had a lot of hype being Izzy's training partner in Israel, telling everybody, watch this guy Blood Diamond, watch this guy Blood Diamond. I'm not hopeless. I think he can, hopeless for him. I am hopeless on my own, but I am hopeful for him to have a career in the UFC, I guess. You know, just because there's so much hype, and I think Jeremiah Wells is a still underrated fighter. But it wouldn't surprise me if this guy's one and done or two and done in the UFC. So we'll have to see what happens there. But overall, great event. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did. And I will be talking to you next week about who the fuck is it now? They replaced Fiziev and Dos Anjos. And now it's Johnny Walker versus... Who the fuck is Johnny Walker fighting? Jamal Hill. Johnny Walker, Jamal Hill, 5-rounder. So, and that's not going 5 rounds. Spoiler for my predictions. Thanks for checking this out. And of course, I'll see you soon.